Hello, how are you guys? I'm so excited to be with you today, and I have a surprise for you as we are moving into our last chapter of the Carver Chronicles. Don't feed the geckos. And look what I have. This is one of my geckos, and this is Trojan. See if I can make it a little clearer. This is Trojan. If you notice that leopard geckos have really beautiful eyes, and they have little things that look like eyelashes. I'm trying to get it to focus. Now you have to be very, very careful. Oh, so let me show you. Let me show you her tail. Now you have to be very, very careful with leopard geckos. If you look at it, their tails are really neat, but there's a little part right there that if a leopard gecko gets maybe trapped by another animal, it releases its tail. It literally will detach its tail from its body. You do not want that to happen to your leopard gecko if you own one as a pet. Now it's a safety measure, for them out in the wild. So if something grabs his tail, he can get away, but it is very painful. And the same thing can happen if you own a leopard gecko. If they get really scared and terrified, they will drop their tails. So you don't want to do things that will terrify it to make it drop its tail. One thing that I would encourage for a lot of you guys that have pets is to make sure that you handle them just a little bit at a time every day. If you have an adult present, if you're a child, that way you can get them used to you. So again, this is Trojan. Trojan has never been outside, so when I got in the truck, Trojan was definitely like, what's going on? So I'm gonna put Trojan here for a second so you can just see her crawling around. And she is called a fancy leopard gecko. Let's see where she's going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press pause, and then I'll be right back. Okay? So don't go anywhere. Okay. So this is our other leopard gecko. And if you can see, she's a different color. I will not leave her out here long. If you noticed, her eyes are closed. If I can show you closer. Her eyes are closed. Geckos are nocturnal. They are supposed to sleep at night. If you noticed with Trojan's eyes were wide open. I don't know if Trojan is confused. It's like Trojan does not know the difference between day and nighttime. But with Dream, we call her Dream, which is short for dreamsicle. Like those orange, like those orange popsicles. But like I said, if you notice, you might see her lick her tongue out. Her eyes are closed. Yeah, she just licked my finger. Her eyes are closed because the sunlight is probably too much for her. So I am going to, which way do I need to move her? So I am going to take Dream back into the house, and so she can go back in her cave and she can safely open her eyes. So when I first brought her out, her eyes were open a little. I just pressed my horn. Her eyes were open a little bit, and they looked completely white. If her eyes were open right now, and we were inside in the dark, her eyes would be red, like a reddish pink. But I'm going to put her back in the house so she can get back to her cave and go back to sleep. I'll be back. I think I found a way to get her to open her eyes. You can see how light they are. This might relax her too much. You want to open your eyes? There you go. You see how light they are? I can't get her to open them all the way because rubbing her head is probably relaxing her too much. You want to open your eyes? Nope, she's not having it, but at least you got to see a little bit. All right, little ones and grown-up ones and teenage ones and all of you ones. I am back for the last chapter. I hope that you've enjoyed all of the pets that I've shown you so far. We still have a few more, but maybe I can show. I think maybe there's 2 or 3 critters that I haven't shown you yet. I have 2 dogs. I think I only showed you one of the cats. I'll figure it out. Chapter 12, the coming and going party. Bernardo was quiet the next morning. He's up before Carlos, who can hear water running in the bathroom. Carlos feels a little uneasy. Maybe he shouldn't have come down so hard on Bernardo, making him feel bad about his reading and pointing out his messiness. And all the time he's been thinking that punch was out of meanness, not out of friendliness. He thinks about this for a few moments before he realizes someone is knocking on his door. It's Issy. He can tell by the knock. What do you want, Issy? Something. Typical 5-year-old answer. Come in. The door remains closed for a moment before she slowly opens it. What is it, Issy? Can't you see I need to get ready for school? She stands there silently. Her mouth turns down, and it begins to quiver in the corners. What's wrong? Carlos asks. It's hard to be patient. I did something bad. Carlos sighs. What did you do? I thought I could feed the geckos. I thought I could surprise you. What? Carlos has a sinking feeling. I forgot to be careful when I shook some of the little box thing. Issy begins to whimper, and one got away. Issy, you should have told me. I thought you'd be mad. Carlos does feel a jolt of anger, but he doesn't let on. Mommy found it anyway, in the bathtub, he says. She did? Yeah, but if you do that again, Issy, I'm telling, and you will get in big trouble. You know you aren't supposed to mess with my things, especially my geckos. And my ant farm, he adds quickly. You better not do that again. I won't, I promise. Now Carlos feels doubly bad about blasting Bernardo. He feels bad during breakfast and on the ride to school. During morning journal time, he's tempted to write about it, but he decides to write about the crickets instead, leaving out the part about blaming Bernardo when Bernardo was innocent. During recess, he pretends nothing happened. Bernardo pretends as well because he doesn't even mention it. Room 10 still has the basketball court, and Ralph, who had to stay in for not doing his homework, let Bernardo take his turn as team captain. Bernardo chooses Carlos for his first pick. That makes Carlos feel worse. Carlos even felt bad doing pair reading earlier each time he had to tell Bernardo a word. He wishes he'd known that Punch was meant to be friendly. Could anything be worse than watching Bernardo just stare out the car window on the way home? He's probably real homesick, Carlos thinks. He's probably wishing he were home in Texas with Tia Emilia. He's probably wishing he still had his father instead of just uncles. He's probably even wishing Papi was his father. Carlos needs to apologize to Bernardo. He needs to understand why Bernardo said only once that he wasn't the one who let the cricket out. No one's going to believe you if you say it only once. Carlos looks over at his cousin, who's still looking out the window. Just as Carlos is on the verge of getting Bernardo's attention so he can tell them that he was wrong to accuse him, Mommy pipes up. Listen, I've got a surprise. What, Mommy? Issy asks. She's wearing a macaroni necklace and bracelet that she made in kindergarten that morning. It's painted blue. I'll tell you when we get home. Just then Carlos notices Issy's not wearing her tiara. Where's your tiara, Issy? He asks. He knows she's not allowed to wear it in school, but she usually leaves it in the car and puts it on first thing when she gets in after school. I left it at home because I'm not a queen anymore. Why? Carlos asks. Because I don't want to be. So the queen phase is over. Carlos is surprised. He forgets all about apologizing to Bernardo. So how do you think Bernardo has been feeling since that big blow up happened with Carlos? Mommy sits them down at the kitchen table, her face beaming as she gets them settled with cookies and milk. She takes a seat across from them. Guess who's coming right here on Saturday? Bernardo is silent. Carlos tries to think of who it could be. Then it hits him. He almost feels disappointed. Tia Emilia, he says. Mommy looks surprised and a little let down. How did you know? She asks. I just guessed. Her neighbor, Mrs. Ruiz's son-in-law, is a dentist who lives here. He needs a new office manager, and Mrs. Ruiz has convinced him to hire your mother, Bernardo. They even found her a place to live for now. It's small, but your mother can look for someplace bigger after she gets here. Mama's eyes shine. Isn't it wonderful how things can just fall into place? She looks at Bernardo, and her smile fades a little. Aren't you happy, Bernardo? She asks. Yes, I'm happy, he says, but Carlos thinks he should be happier. There's going to be a party, a welcoming party for Tia Emilia and a going away party for Bernardo. Everyone is coming, all the relatives, and the best thing is that they're coming with food. Carlos thinks of the sweet stuff, empanadas stuffed with fruit, tamales de dulce. There'll also be yummy chicken enchiladas and tortilla soup, arroz con leche, and the list goes on and on. Carlos remembers how good the Mexican dish tastes at a party. So here's a picture of some of the different foods. So that's the soup. That looks like the tamale, and this looks like the empanada. He can understand what Mommy is talking about when she reminisces about the food of her childhood, or when she and Papi disagree about who makes the best mole, her tia Hortensia or his tia Nelly. Whoever it isn't Mommy. She complains about her own mole each time she prepares it. I think it's too runny. Is it bland? Did I make it spicy enough? Oh no, I'm beginning to cook American. Carlos wonders what a big deal is about the mole. It's just this brown saucy stuff. It's all the same to him. He'd rather have spaghetti and meatballs. Sure enough, the parade of foods begins in the late afternoon. Mrs. Ruiz brings arroz con pollo, and her daughter comes with a nice big pan of flan, or flan. Tia Lupe arrives with a huge plate of empanadas and a gallon of pink horchata. Her 3 daughters just bring themselves. They're all Issy's age or younger, so Carlos directs them to the backyard, where Issy has set up rows of her stuffed animals in front of a chalkboard for school. Now she wants to be a teacher, so she's teaching her stuffed animals letter sounds. Oh, Miss Teresa had to hide her yawn. So this is some of the family coming with their different dishes. Bernardo and the uncles and 2 cousins, who are in college but home for the weekend, are in the living room watching a soccer match on TV. Brazil and Germany are playing. At one point, Papi tells Carlos to go to the kitchen and get more chips and salsa. Salsa verde, Papa says, not the red. Before Carlos can open the kitchen door, he hears Tia Lupe say, Poor Bernardo, to have his father die when he was so young, too young to remember him. I feel so happy that he has his uncle now to pay him some attention. His uncle? Carlos knows Tia is referring to Papi. Now he feels extra bad about all the things he said to Bernardo. He gets the chips and salsa verde and returns to the den, where there's lots of whooping and hollering going on. Bernardo is joining in too. He seems happy to be part of the group. He looks like he belongs. During halftime, Tio Raul gets everybody outside. Papi, the cousins from college, the uncles, Bernardo, for an impromptu game of soccer, just for fun, without all the rules. Carlos decides to join in so that it's him, Bernardo, and the cousins against Papi and the uncles. Back and forth the ball goes without anyone keeping score, and with Carlos running first way and then the other. When halftime is over, the men go back inside the house. Bernardo and Carlos stay outside. Carlos says, "I have to tell you something, Bernardo." Bernardo flops down on the back porch steps, and Carlos sits beside him. "What?" Bernardo asks. Carlos looks down. "I have to apologize." The words feel funny in his mouth. Maybe he's never said them before. He can't remember saying them. Unless it was one of those occasions where he'd done something mean to Issy, and Mama said, "Apologize to your sister." Then he'd only mouth the words. He never really meant it then, but later he'd feel bad. But this time he does mean it, right then and there. Bernardo looks at him waiting. "It was Issy who let the cricket out. She told me. I shouldn't have thought it was you, and I shouldn't have gotten mad at you and said all those mean things." Now Bernardo looks down as if he's embarrassed, but when he brings up his head, he has a smile on his face. "You really suck at soccer. You're really bad." "I know," Carlos says. "You need to try harder. You can't just run up and down the field. You have to get in there and do something." So that's them talking on the bench. "I know," Carlos says again, and realizes it actually makes him feel better to have Bernardo criticizing him. Bernardo stands up and runs to the ball. "Get up," he calls to Carlos. Carlos obeys. What does obey mean? Bernardo passes the ball to him. "Use the inside of your foot, kick it back, but keep it low." Carlos's foot slides under the ball, and the kick is too high. "This is going to take some work," Bernardo says, but he passes it back. This time, Carlo manages to get it to Bernardo. They do that for a while, and Bernardo says, "Now use the outside of your foot." That feels awkward at first, but with Bernardo gently passing the ball to him, he soon gets the hang of it. Part of his sucking at soccer comes from not really trying all that hard. He can see that now. Maybe he should have tried harder to be Bernardo's friend too. They didn't even go to Miller's Park or to the store for candy. But even the opportunity is not lost because Bernardo is going to be living nearby and he's still going to be in room 10. Carlos is still going to have his cousin. The doorbell rings right after someone has scored a goal in the game on TV and everyone inside has shouted and pumped their fists. Bernardo runs in with Carlos behind him like he knows it's his mother. He arrives at the door just as Mommy is opening it and folks have gathered around. There is Tia Emilia standing on their front porch with 2 big pieces of luggage. The relatives, one after the other, begin to hug and welcome her as she smiles and looks around. She sees Bernardo then, and he sees her. The crowd of family members part, so mother and son can give each other a big hug. Tia Emilia's eyes fill with tears. "Though it's only been a little while, I've missed you so much, mi hijo," she says. Bernardo seems suddenly shy. "I'm glad you're here, Mommy," he says finally. Everyone goes back to whatever they were doing. Bernardo takes his mother's luggage and puts it in the hall closet out of the way. Then Tia Emilia follows Mommy to the kitchen so she can visit with her sister, and the party resumes. It seems that laughter is coming from everywhere. Later, when everyone has gone home and Tia Emilia has packed up Bernardo and taken him with her, after all the hugs and thank yous, and now that I'm here, we'll be seeing a lot of each other's, after all of that, Carlos finally gets to climb up into his top bunk and survey his room. It's back to being all his at last. Can anything be better? It has been my pleasure to read Don't Feed the Geckos to you as part of the Carver Chronicles. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this book, and I will gladly take some suggestions in the comment section if there's another book that you would like me to read next. Love you all. Praying peace, blessings, and wellness for you. Smooches. Bye-bye.